Now, I don't know about you guys, but personally, I'm really loving this season of Formula One. Now, of course, there are the issues with the batteries, like I don't like how much they decide the races, but little tweaks here and there have reduced that influence, and I think with future ones, we could really enter a sweet spot soon. Anyways, I'm not here to talk about that. Instead, I want to talk about the racing we have seen, because boys, it's so exciting. I think this is the first F1 season in a while where the front-running teams are so close to each other and often are fighting for the P1 places. We typically see this in qualifying since every round so far looks unpredictable as for who can get pole position. And while in the races it does always seem to be a Mercedes on top, recent weeks have shown us that they are not as invincible as they once were. Teams are catching up to Merc, and overall, the top end of the grid is getting so exciting to watch. Wait, if the front runners are that close to each other and fighting for big results, bro, I bet the midfield must be even better and exciting, right? Well, in a strange plot twist, the midfield of F1, you know, the area where chaos and unpredictability is standard, is actually pretty boring this year. It's not so boring that there's literally nothing to report on. However, compared to midfield fights such as last year, 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, I think I could stop. It just hasn't been comparable whatsoever. Add on how all the chaos and unpredictability has instead been transferred to the front running order, and this is strange, no? So as your resident thinking duck with bad takes, I did some thinking and want to discuss this perilous issue. So the question is simple, and simple enough that we could just answer it right now. Why is the midfield fight like this year? I would say it's because it's new regulations, people. It's easier to understand the regulations out the jump if you have fat stacks of cash and experience. In the case of teams like Williams and Haas, you don't have fat stacks of cash. In the case of Audi and Cadillac, you don't have fat stacks of experience. And the other guys are still kind of lost anyway, since they just don't have the resources compared to the top guys. So at the end of the video, let's ask if this issue can be fixed by the end of the season. And I know some of you may be wondering, is this really an issue? Especially the top fight is actually exciting for once this year? Well, yes, it is an issue, since over time, one front running team will establish a lead so dominant it will look impossible to beat them. That's where the midfield fight satiates our craving for action. So yes, it is an issue. So now that you understand the task at hand, subscribe if you can't live up to your expectations either, and let's get to quacking now.
A good weather for a race, but especially for a duck.
Let's go in order from constructor standings, starting from the bottom, where we of course have Cadillac. And for this section, I will group Aston Martin here as well, since I think you know why. Both teams have been atrocious, to put it lightly. However, at least Cadillac are the new team here. Everything we have seen from Aston Martin this year has been embarrassing and borderline offensive. They were supposed to rock up in 2026 with a car that is good enough to get a podium here and there and be a full dark horse. However, they are just so terrible this year, to the point that a B-spec car will likely take them back up to maybe where Williams are. That's how terribly slow they have been. And again, Cadillac are at least a new team on the grid, so it is tough to criticize them too much. However, one thing we definitely can do that is in relation to their durability. You mean reliability? Well, they have had their issues, sure, but no, I mean durability. I don't know how these lot have done it, but they somehow built a car where a punch would probably leave a dent in it, since the amount of times their car is literally broken apart, I mean, it's just too much to count. I understand they are new to the sport and everything, but surely they have like screws and bolts, right? Surely their car can be held together by glue and scotch tape, right? Anyways, these issues with both teams have of course led to basically all their races so far featuring them in the bottom 4 positions. There are some outlying races here and there, like in the case of Monaco, where somehow Aston scored points only after Checo in the points forgot how to be an F1 driver, but for the vast majority this season, have these guys been so bad to watch, it's kinda sad. As for the future of the season and next, we have known for a while now that Aston Martin will bring a B-spec car starting either next week at Spa or on the return race of the summer break, but again, I highly doubt this will see them launch up the grid and be this force to be reckoned with now. They will for sure stop being a second and a half away from Cadillac, but I don't know if they'll be in points territory is all I'm saying. And as for Caddy, we will likely see more minor upgrades from them that sees them get some pace back, but ultimately nothing major to where these guys are fighting RB and Alpine for points. Just steady improvements as our new team gains some much needed experience. So what's the issue for both teams? Just everything, man. Lack of money, lack of experience, lack of competency, any issue you can name, Caddy and Aston are likely suffering from it. Moving up the grid though, we now have Audi to talk about, and these guys are, to me at least, the most interesting team to talk about, because at the start of the year, these guys looked way better than expected. The expectation heading into this year was almost kind of similar to Cadillac's. They will for sure be there on the grid, but no, they get points on debut and have a great first 3 rounds, but as soon as that April break comes and ends, these guys fell way down the order. They started to struggle for points, and by this point, aren't even contenders that much anymore. I say this because you look at their results and say, well, these guys are finishing like P11 and P12. They are fighting for points. They're just likely getting unlucky. And while you are correct on the unlucky thing, they aren't fighting for points. They have enough pace to push away from the guys like Williams and Haas, but not enough pace to get points quite like Alpine and RB could. They are, as I like to call them, the cucks of the midfield. They're decent enough to stand up, but not good enough to get a piece of the action. But how did they fall off? Surely you just upgrade the car and have a great team leader, and despite any unreliability issues, results will come, right? Well, the only problem is everything I've said right now is happening but not working. The upgrades the team is bringing to the car certainly ain't no Aston 24 and 25 upgrades, but they gain tiny advantages while their competitors take huge leap forwards. And when it comes to their team leader, Jonathan Wheatley, he started the year as team principal, however, sniffed that Aston cash and turned heel very quick. Well, it's not confirmed, but also kinda is. This led to Bonotto and McNish sharing responsibilities, and this dynamic is just not working as you would hope. The team is a logistical nightmare currently. Nothing is working, no one is doing anything, and if they are, it's so insignificant. Maybe Wheatley was the glue holding everything together. I also can't imagine the season getting too much better either, since I'm sure 2027 is their new starting point, perhaps with a better team principal. So like I said a little bit before, the problem plaguing them this year is just the team being a logistical nightmare, since everything is too spread out and no one is able to do anything quite well just yet. Next year is their year though, take it from the Ferrari fan. Let's continue moving up the grid where we now have Williams, but also Haas, who we could also group together. Now, they haven't done as poorly as Aston Martin and Cadillac. However, they still have done poorly, if that makes sense. Williams, like Aston, were expected to come into 2026 as dark horses. James Vowles since 2023 has transformed Williams from being incompetent backmarkers to midfield titans with amazing trajectory to perhaps even one day start getting big results soon. And after 2025 featured Williams on the podium twice with Sainz, I mean, shit, man, 2026 was looking awesome. They were going to have the sick-ass Mercedes engine, which is a cheat code apparently, and they were going to have an aggressive car with resources since 2024 poured into it. I mean, my word, guys, we were in for a banger. So what does Melbourne 2026 see? No points and lap to oblivion. Not ideal, but surely China... No, man. Williams are just trash this year, albeit they are not dog shit, but trash isn't much better anyways. They have at least scored some good points here and there thanks to actual competent leadership, but is it really competent if they went from midfield masters to barely above backmarker territory? I would say their issues this year are, of course, a lack of fun, since Williams is still a pretty small team, but I would say they also suffer from being too overambitious. By trying something different, sure, you can open up Pandora's box and be like a million miles ahead, but I mean, something is standard for a reason, you know? The main issue with their car is that it is super overweight, and even looking past that, there just is not a whole lot to it. And it's sad watching in real time as rumors came out about 2026 that Williams are going to be trash. At first, they were expected to maybe even be like the third best team this year. Then slowly we heard, oh wait, they won't be that good, but still good, you know? Then it went to, oh wait, Williams have made some mistakes. And then it went to, oh wait, Williams are going to be trash as a motherfucker this year. So in essence, you gotta calm down, Mr. AEIOU. Just slowly bring the team back again and take what you can. And like I said before, Haas are pretty similar, but very different in certain ways. They were kind of like the opposite of Williams. Haas were expected to be woefully dogshit, since I mean, it's Haas, you know? These guys have never been one to be daring or super noticeable on the grid. So when rumors came out that Haas were just kind of there, no one batted an eye. However, shakedown happens and Haas apparently are much faster than than we thought, and this reflected in round 1 in Australia since, with Ollie Behrman at least, these guys were moving up the grid and making moves that was stunning to see. China was also the same. Japan would have been the same if it weren't for Ollie nearly dying, but even then, the car was so good that even Ocon could get some points. However, Miami comes around and they were pretty beat by Alpine. No biggie. But then every subsequent race has seen Haas get worse and worse and worse to now they're competing with Williams to even just make it out of Q1. Again, like Williams, these guys are suffering from a lack of funds, but also direction. In interviews with Komatsu, the guy seems kind of lost on what to do this year, as he of course knows there are issues with the car, but never gives actual insight into what is actually wrong with it. To fix these performance issues, both Haas and Williams are heavily rumored to bring B-spec cars post-summer break, just like Aston, which, hey, I'm starting to notice a pattern. Could it be because teams with funding and stable leadership have taken massive leaps, such as our two remaining teams, Racing Bulls and Alpine? Racing Bulls have started the year, honestly, just fine. They had a fast enough car to take points, and throughout the season have made upgrade after upgrade that have worked in making the car even better and faster. These stable upgrades that work have launched the team from being good but not great to just flat out great, since points are kind of now being guaranteed in the hands of Liam Lawson. Every race in session has basically seen Racing Bulls in the top 10 with Liam's car at least, and in weekends where they're the best midfield car, Lindblad is there too, leading to RB's best season since 2021. And as they progress along this year, they will likely keep doing the same. Bring an upgrade here, bring an upgrade there, it's all looking very bright. And this is all thanks to, of course, their very good leadership by Alan Permain. Laura Mekis used to be the team principal of RB, and he was super good at his job too. However, he of course got called up to Red Bull after Horner was finally executed at Nuremberg. This could have been devastating to Racing Bull since we knew Alan would take over the role, but not every technical director, the team principal promotion goes smoothly. However, this one did, and you can maybe argue Permain is doing a better job than Mekis at RB. So couple that good leadership with of course zero worries about funding, and it's no secret that RB is capitalizing on everyone else's mistakes. However, they still have competition since Alpine are of course the other midfield team with some competence this year. Imagine saying that to someone in 2025 and 24. Alpine are of course spearheaded by Big Flavio of the Epstein files and have been for a while now. And to put it simply, they are the blueprint for everyone else this year. Alpine have scored the most amount of points this season for a midfield team, but if you watch the first 3 rounds again, you would have never guessed that. These guys started off slow as hell, and it seemed that another season of little points would be ahead of them. But no, heading to Miami, they brought a B-spec car, and since then have been scoring points out the wazoo. They are the ones capitalizing on positions that are gifted after a front runner retires, which has led to a pretty big lead in the standings for the midfield pack. So yeah, it's no wonder why RB and Alpine are the only good midfield teams this year when they are being ran by competent leadership that is bringing good upgrades, and another is having funding flowing through in the case of RB. So let's bring it back to the intro. Will this issue be fixed eventually? Will the midfield once again be a place of chaos and great racing action out the wazoo? Because sure, there is some of that this year, but again, it's incomparable to many prior years. Well, in my opinion, of course it will be, but not without massive shifts. I think with the exception of RB, Alpine, unless Flavio dies, I don't know, and maybe Williams, every other midfield team will have team principal changes with the goal of restoring competency back in the organization. And it sucks too, because that's just how it goes at times in the midfield. You could be doing a good ass job, but one bad year and you are out. Ferrari and McLaren can have bad years, but their team principals will stay to try and prove something more once again. The midfield does not have the same patience, and unfortunately, guys like Komatsu, Newey, and McNish could find themselves without a job soon. I was also considering putting Graham Loudon in there as well, but it's Cadillac, they will give him some time. But all in all, the midfield will likely get back to its usual business sometimes in 2027, maybe even this year if all these B-spec cars the teams are bringing work to great effect like Alpine's, but for the time being, let's just say 2027 will see a chaotic midfield once more after some major team shifts. So those were my thoughts on the midfield this year. Normally, the midfield fight is my favorite part of every year of F1, but this year, it's probably been the first time I've preferred the top fight over the midfield since like 2021, and even before 2021, probably 2016, which was my first season of F1. Sure has been a strange one this year, huh? Anyways, I want to give a quick shout out to all members of the vlog for the continued support, and make sure to join if you want cool benefits as well as just helping me out. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe since it really helps me out, and make sure to let me know in the comments what you think of this. And as always, have an amazing day.
Good weather for the duck.